In today's Leeds news, Farke refuses to rule out Firpo exit, latest on Kristensen's permanent move, Iheanacho transfer claim, Farke identifies three key areas, and Louis Barry transfer update. Morning folks, Jay here at The View with your Leeds United news for Friday morning the 24th of January. No one's going to know this, but I'm just saying this to myself if this even gets out. The storm hit Ireland today, so power's out in an awful lot of places, so I'm trying to get this out a little bit earlier than normal and hope that it gets there. There probably won't be a podcast tonight just based on the damage that's been done at the moment, but we'll start off and crack off with the news today, and hopefully this gets out to everybody who's watching. We'll start off with Daniel Farke refusing to rule out a junior Firpo exit this January, and Firpo's situation is well known by everybody. We've talked about it a lot this month, but the noise around junior Firpo is likely not to go away until this window is closed and potentially Leeds put a new deal on the table for him or not. Then we will know what the future holds for him. But in his press conference yesterday, Daniel Farke made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to lose any of the key members of his senior squad right now, of which junior Firpo would be seen as one of those, but at the same time he can't rule anything out. Firpo is free right now, as we've talked about before, to negotiate a pre-contract agreement with any club outside the UK in order to move away from Leeds at the end of the season for a free transfer. Reports in Spain today claim that Real Betis continue to remain firmly interested in bringing the player back to the club, but it's likely that they will try the free option given their finances at the moment. And we saw the carry on during the summer with Leeds, where they got a discounted Diego Llorente and a discounted Mark Roca, and they've just brought in Anthony from Manchester United on loan. So they're keen to work in that tighter, smaller market, but also apparently very keen to bring in the entirety of the Leeds United side that got relegated from the Premier League. But outside of that, there are reports coming from Turkey that there are clubs there and other clubs in Spain that are interested in the player. Farke said something spectacular, though, would need to happen this month if any of his senior players were likely to leave the club. Leeds could look at left-back option. Yesterday we mentioned that left-back Daniel Svensson has been linked with Leeds United a couple of times. They've got Isaac Schmidt there as well, Max Verber, Sam Byram. Maybe Leeds could try and get some money for Firpo in January, or you bank it, stick with him till the end of the season, get promoted, and then we'll see what happens then. So we'll know more in a bit, but refusing to rule out a move categorically right now. Moving on to another player that's away from the club at the moment and could be on his way away from Leeds permanently, and that's Rasmus Kristensen. It's been a while since we updated the situation on what's going on with him, and Kristensen is having a very, very good season in Germany, which bodes well for Leeds' hopes of selling the fullback in the future. Frankfurt's sporting director earlier this year went on record to say that the club were very keen to keep the player on a permanent move, but wouldn't be keen on paying the option fee that they had negotiated and agreed with Leeds. Kristensen, as I said, has had a standout season, but he had a standout performance when Frankfurt beat Borussia Dortmund, and Lothar Matthäus even singled Kristensen out for high praise, referring to him as a top transfer for Frankfurt this season. A permanent move currently would cost Frankfurt around about £12.5 million, but we've seen this before with options. We saw it with Diego Llorente, with Roma, we've seen it with Mark Roca. These options are there, they're agreed to get the loan across the line, and then clubs can try and roll back on them if they want to. But Frankfurt have sold Omar Mamouche to Manchester City for £60 million, and that would suggest there's a bit of change floating around in their pockets should they wish to splash it. But their sporting director has said they won't be doing that and they won't be wasting good money. But Frankfurt sporting director has said that Kristensen is an absolute hit in Germany and they do want to keep him permanently. But he said the following on any potential transfer fees: "We will not meet the horrendous expectations of other clubs. When we buy players, we have a market-based price. We will not exceed that so that we don't have to put all our eggs in one basket. If someone then thinks that they want to get a horrendous price from us, that is not possible. Then we will do something else." Should be pointed out, I suppose, at this point, that the option to buy fee was agreed by Frankfurt in this deal to get Kristensen on loan in the first place, and the horrendous fee that they talk about, they negotiated that themselves, or at least agreed to that fee to get the player, but now are not keen on paying the option fee. So this one will rule on. It's clear that they want the player. We know that Leeds want the player to go, and we know the player doesn't want to be at Leeds. Common sense will prevail here, I'm sure, but if he continues to have a very, very strong season in Germany, his price is only going to go up, and that might get other clubs interested. So Leeds could be better off just sitting and waiting on this one and see what happens, but try and sell him in the summer then after a strong season in the Bundesliga. Moving on to a transfer claim, and very, very, very much in the rumour mill territory. I'll give you the rumour, I'll give you the information. You can decide yourself whether you believe it's true or not. But we'll talk about Kelechi Iheanacho. And last week, Kelechi Iheanacho was linked with a move to Leeds United. But I don't think any of us thought that these really came from credible sources or credible reports. However, there are fresh reports today linking the player with a move to Leeds United, and maybe even that a deal is being done as we speak. But again, not coming from an overly credible source, so you decide. But reports from Score Nigeria claim that Leeds will in fact sign Kelechi Iheanacho in January. The news outlet reported that the former Manchester City player will sign for Leeds United this month, which is a very definitive statement to be making. There is no information in this report whether they think it's a loan deal or it's a permanent deal, or the other likely option is that former Leeds United Director of Sport Victor Orta is drumming up interest in a player that he would like to move away from the club. Sevilla are expected this month to sign striker Akor Adams, and when that happens, that will likely make Kelechi Iheanacho available to move away from the club. As I said, it's rumour. It's very much pinch of salt. For me, it's a wild enough claim, but you just never know. If Leeds are looking for a backup 9, Iheanacho had a very strong start to last season with Leicester when they got promoted. Not so much in the second half of the season, but maybe he's exactly what Daniel Farke needs on the bench as another option in case there's an injury to Joel Pirou or Mateo Joseph. So yeah, I don't think it's credible, but we'll see, I suppose. There's still 2 weeks left. Moving on to what Daniel Farke has identified for the January transfer window. An interesting enough press conference yesterday, and in yesterday's presser, Daniel Farke was obviously asked about transfers. But he didn't do the normal thing of trying to divert the question away or saying, the obvious, we stay awake and then moving on from it. He went into a fairly lengthy explanation around this. And fair play to the local media, who did press him several times with several questions on this topic. During the answer and cutting through the noise of the length of the answer, Daniel Farke clearly identifies 3 areas that he believes that Leeds need strengthening in this month, but does insist that the quality and the price are very important if they should do any business. What was clear though is that Farke has refused to rule out no signings in January, but it could be a late window depending on the kind of calibre player they're going after, similar to what we saw with Manor Solomon in the summer. But Daniel Farke did mention a central defender, a creative number 10 and an option at number 9. On the back of Pascal Struijk's injury recently, which luckily, thanks to Daniel Farke yesterday, we now know isn't as severe, or at least right now isn't as severe, similar to last year when we were told 2 weeks and then it was 3 months, 4 months. Struijk is though due back in training in the next week or so we'll find out then if there's any reaction to that and if Leeds need to dip into the market. But on this, Farke said the following: I know a bit about his injury history, and so it doesn't mean that we will fall asleep until the end of the window. Farke went on to talk about the other areas that he needs, saying the following: there are still a few positions we could have a deeper look at if they can improve the squad, but right now I'm a little bit more calmer with not being in a panic mode with the need to have to do something. I think it's fair to say if there is a creative offensive player out there like a number 10 position, then it's something that could be beneficial to the group. The specifics, as I say on this, are very, very important, and they're the part that we need to cut through all the other noise on to see if there's any credibility to these. The affordability and the quality are going to be massive on this, and Farke said the following on this: Brendan Aronson has been excellent this season and a key player for us, but we might have a similar player like him in our group. Of course, other players who can play in that role. If there's a solution though for a creative midfield player, it definitely makes sense to stay awake. In all other areas we're covered. The only 2 positions we have to stay awake in my head is the centre back position and perhaps a striking option at 9. Over the last couple of weeks, Daniel Farke has started to talk a little bit more about transfers, give a little bit more detail, and starting to see the kind of upfrontness that he had in the summer. He's talked an awful lot about being upfront with the fans and being clear and concise with them as well. So he's starting to just drop little nuggets along the line as we get closer to the February 3rd transfer window closing date. So for me, there's definitely something going on there behind the scenes. We've seen Pete Lowry, Parag Morate, Angus Kinnear all in deep conversations over the course of this week. They're all at the ground, they're all in Elland Road, so something's going on behind the scenes. Whether they get it done or not remains to be seen. But if you go back to the Iheanacho story and you look at what Farke is looking as an option number 9, maybe that makes sense. Maybe it's somebody else. And moving on to somebody else, let's talk about the latest rumour that came back out again. Attacker that has been mentioned on the back pages again towards Leeds United today is Aston Villa's Louis Barry. Barry scored 16 goals in 24 matches for Stockport County. He's naturally a wide player, but he did play more centrally in the attacking roles for Stockport, where he had huge success for them this season. And Sheffield United and Leeds United were labelled as being two clubs that were interested in bringing the player in, along with Middlesbrough and Hull City. Today, Sheffield United confirmed the signing of Tom Cannon from Leicester City. Last week they brought in Bren Burton Diaz, which means that they're probably all stacked up in their attacking areas. Hull City added Joe Gelhardt from Leeds, and he scored an absolute cracker on his first start for Hull City this week. And now Leeds have been linked with Louis Barry yet again. Leeds Live rounded up the Barry situation, and they say that on his return to Aston Villa, Villa want to tie him down to a long-term contract before they allow the player then to go out on loan. However, reports in Scotland say that Celtic could be interested in a 7-figure move for the player on a permanent basis, and the Daily Record have also included Leeds United in the mix of that, saying that Leeds and Celtic are both interested in the player. A Celtic move for Barry, which for me would be unusual considering they qualified for the playoff stage of the Champions League. They're miles clear at the top of the Scottish Premier Division, and they have a ton of strikers in the squad right now. It would mean an odd one for me unless they're going to buy him permanently and look at that as a future player for them. In Leeds' situation, Leeds need cover. Aston Villa want the player to get guaranteed minutes. That's very, very, very unlikely at Leeds. So this will come down to this Leeds strategy, which we talked about at the start of the video, and we looked at Leeds in the summer. Leeds appear to approach clubs, declare an interest in the player, give the details of what they would like to do as a deal, and then step back and wait to see what the club think and what other clubs in the mix are going to do. At which point Leeds will wait until either an offer for the player comes in and judge whether they should go against that, or if that offer is like Latty Lat, miles above their expectations, they back away from that deal completely. So and that's why these deals, for me, and I'm just guessing, it's just my opinion, that's why I think these deals happen late. Manor Solomon being a prime example of that in the summer. Leeds wanted the quality of the player and were willing to wait to see. They declared their interest at the start of the window and then got him at the very end of it. So depending on the quality, there's no panic here. There's 2 weeks left. Leeds need 3 players, essentially all covering players, just to make sure we've got everything we need. Different options slightly. But it's about getting the right quality in at this moment in time and not rushing to get 3 players in who just won't add anything to the team and might even upset the dressing room. So they need them. They need to get the deals done, but there's still a bit of time and we're still okay right now. The Burnley game won't have an impact on this. Anybody coming in now anyway would likely not play in that game. So we'll have to wait and see. It's a big gamble to do nothing in January. I think we'll try and do something, but we'll have to wait and see what happens in the next 2 weeks. We will have the final hour of the transfer window live stream as we do every single year. So that will still be there. I'm still lining up if we can get Michael and Alex from American Leeds to come in for that as they normally do. And we'll see how that one goes. But folks, that will be it for me today. A massive thank you as always for supporting the channel. I hope everyone in Ireland and the UK is okay after the storm has hit and everyone's fine. I'll be back tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, with a news video because the game this week is on Monday, and we will have the match preview as a live stream on Saturday night with myself and Andrew Stats Dalton. You can check that out as well. Folks, that'll be it. Have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.